What happens when a public representative, widely seen as a voice for justice and equality, finds themselves entangled in a situation that brushes up against the edges of the law? This isn't just about one individual. It's a reflection of how powerful positions often bring powerful questions, especially when the topics are as sensitive as national law, immigration, and ethical responsibility. In today's video, we explore the unfolding debate that's stirring quiet waves across the political landscape. It's not a scandal in the traditional sense. It's more like a slow-burning fire of allegations, concerns, and legal scrutiny, all circling one figure who's known for being outspoken, bold, and controversial in equal measure. The figure at the center of this debate is a member of the National Assembly, someone who rose to prominence for championing progressive causes and fighting for underrepresented communities. But now that same person is facing whispers of legal complications that are gaining volume in certain circles. According to some media reports, this lawmaker is being accused of potentially violating federal employment regulations. Specifically, the allegations suggest that an individual without legal work authorization may have been hired to support a political campaign. If true, this would be a significant concern, not only because of its legal implications, but also because of what it symbolizes about double standards in accountability. The laws around hiring practices in political campaigns are clear. Individuals working for public office candidates must meet strict eligibility requirements. Federal guidelines prohibit hiring people who are not authorized to work in the country. This is meant to ensure transparency, fairness, and adherence to labor laws. If someone in public office were to knowingly sidestep these rules, the public outcry could be immense. But in this case, the response is mixed. Supporters of the lawmaker insist that the allegations are part of a broader pattern of political targeting. They argue that such claims often surface when someone speaks out too loudly, pushes too hard against the status quo, or challenges deep-seated power structures. At the same time, others, particularly those with more conservative perspectives, see this as an opportunity to demand accountability. One prominent legal figure, known for being tough on immigration issues and strict on law enforcement, is reportedly reviewing the situation. There are even rumors that this individual is exploring whether federal legal action might be justified. So far, there have been no official charges or confirmed investigations, but the tension in political circles is undeniable. What started as an online discussion has now spilled into mainstream commentary, raising questions about where the line between advocacy and legal boundaries should be drawn. Adding to the complexity are allegations that the same lawmaker may have been involved in community outreach efforts that included helping undocumented individuals better understand their rights. Some critics have interpreted this as obstruction, suggesting that offering guidance could be viewed as interfering with federal enforcement. Others argue the opposite, that educating people about their constitutional protections is not only legal but necessary. After all, everyone in the country, regardless of status, is protected by certain rights, such as the right to remain silent, the right to due process, and the right to legal counsel. This difference in interpretation is at the heart of the controversy. It's not just about what was done, it's about how it's perceived. Is it a crime? Or is it compassion? Is it obstruction, or is it education? The answers depend heavily on your worldview, your politics, and perhaps even your faith in the justice system. But what's becoming clear is that the situation is far from black and white. The legal expert reportedly looking into this case is known for taking bold action and has a strong record in court. If this situation escalates, it could set a precedent, both in how public officials engage with immigration issues and in how they are held accountable when questions arise. For now, the lawmaker in question has remained calm and composed. In a letter addressed to the legal office, they asked for transparency and clarity, requesting to know whether a formal inquiry had been opened. They emphasized that their efforts have always been rooted in public service, not subversion, and they made one thing very clear: informing people of their constitutional rights is not a crime. Rather, it is a duty, one that every elected official should take seriously. That letter has sparked new discussion among legal scholars and commentators. Some say it shows a sincere effort to cooperate. Others suggest it may be a strategic move, a preemptive attempt to shape the narrative. Regardless of interpretation, the letter has put the ball back in the court of those raising the allegations. If an investigation is to happen, it will now need to be rooted in clear evidence and legal merit, not just headlines or social media buzz. As of today, there is no confirmation of any legal action being taken. No indictments, no subpoenas, only speculation. But in the world of politics, speculation alone can be powerful. It shapes perception, it frames debates, and in some cases, it even influences elections. The question on everyone's mind is simple. Will this situation fade away quietly, or is it the start of something bigger? In the next part of this video, we'll explore how this case could evolve, what legal steps might follow, and how both supporters and critics are preparing for what comes next. We'll also look into the wider implications. What does this mean for campaign regulations, for immigration policy, and for the public trust in elected officials? As the days progress, the situation continues to evolve, not through courtroom drama, but through careful, deliberate legal and public discourse. Behind closed doors, advisors and legal analysts are examining the details of campaign operations, employment documents, and the scope of constitutional guidance provided during community outreach events. On the surface, it may appear quiet, but beneath that calm, there's a growing tension. Because this isn't just about one office or one individual. It's about precedent, about whether the boundaries between advocacy and enforcement are being redrawn. Legal scholars who specialize in constitutional rights have weighed in on similar cases before. They often stress that offering legal knowledge, especially regarding the rights individuals possess during encounters with law enforcement, is protected under the Constitution. But critics in this case say that it's the context that matters. If someone in a leadership role appears to actively enable evasion of federal procedures, that could warrant concern. The challenge lies in proving intent, not just action, and that is a legal hill much harder to climb. Meanwhile, voices on social media and alternative news platforms have amplified the story, each side interpreting the same events through entirely different lenses. On one side, it's being framed as a story of courage, a leader standing up for those without a voice. On the other, it's portrayed as a reckless bending of laws for political gain. But amidst all this noise, official legal response remains measured, cautious. The legal figure reportedly assessing the matter has not made any public statements. No leaks, no press conferences, just a quiet signal that due process is being followed. This brings us to the broader political landscape. At a time when public trust in institutions is fragile, stories like these fuel deeper questions. Who gets to draw the line between help and harm? When elected officials work to educate the public, should there be limits on whom they can help? And if such efforts overlap with sensitive enforcement operations, where does one responsibility end and another begin? Some advocates argue that this case, whether it proceeds legally or not, will serve as a turning point. It could influence how future campaigns operate, how community outreach is handled, and how elected officials are expected to balance their role as lawmakers with their role as public educators. In the meantime, the lawmaker at the center of it all continues to serve in office, continuing with legislative duties and maintaining a public presence. There has been no resignation, no suspension, only ongoing questions that may or may not ever transform into formal charges. Supporters have responded with calls for unity, asking constituents not to jump to conclusions. They cite past instances where public figures were accused prematurely, only to later be cleared of wrongdoing. They urge a focus on facts, not fear. Critics, on the other hand, say silence from legal authorities should not be mistaken for innocence. They want transparency, accountability, and a thorough examination of whether laws were breached. Amid this polarization, one important element has remained under-discussed: the role of public education in democracy. When lawmakers hold sessions to teach people about their rights, it strengthens civic understanding. But when such education is perceived, even incorrectly, as interference with law enforcement, the optics become volatile. And it's the optics, more than the facts, that often shape public opinion. For content creators, journalists, and commentators, this raises a delicate challenge. How do you talk about a case like this responsibly? How do you avoid fanning flames or pushing a narrative that lacks full evidence. That's why in today's video, we've taken a calm, neutral, and fact-based approach, acknowledging all sides while encouraging critical thinking. It's not about taking a side. It's about understanding the story beneath the headlines. In the coming weeks, observers will be watching closely. If any formal steps are taken, whether it's a public statement from legal authorities, a formal inquiry, or a legal filing, they'll likely make national headlines. But even if nothing happens legally, the political implications could linger. Rivals may reference this case in future debates. Allies may bring it up as proof of resilience. And the public will remember, not necessarily what was proven, but what was discussed. This story at its core isn't about guilt or innocence. It's about the fragile balance between advocacy and authority, between compassion and compliance. It's a mirror reflecting deeper societal divides and the ongoing tension between principle and policy. Whether you're someone who supports the central figure in this story or someone who questions their judgment, one thing is certain. This is a moment worth paying attention to. In closing, it's important to remember that our democracy thrives not when we react out of outrage, but when we engage with facts, context, and care. Let this story be a reminder of that. If you found this breakdown thoughtful, consider subscribing for more in-depth, balanced insights. Stay informed, stay critical, and above all, stay curious.